Hello, 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 everyone. We are, sorry, I am back with Paranormal Connections radio show. I'm your host, Christina George, along with my co host, Chad,
Yeah.
the,
How's everybody doing?
Chad, the ghost guy. As you see, he disappears, he gets cut off. The spirits don't want him on the show. He has problems with the internet. Then he had a whole birthday that, he had to go and celebrate.
Yeah, I had to. Jeez, man.
But he's back.
Um,
He is back, and we got a great show for you tonight. Uh, as people start to dribble in, feel free, as you always know, to put any of your questions into the comment section, and either Chad or I will read them out and have our guests be able to answer them. Tonight, we've got a double header. I have been getting a lot of requests after we were talking last week. Well, Chad wasn't here. Were you able to see that show, Chad?
I haven't been able to yet.
Okay.
I've been crazy
So
busy, but I intend on seeing it though.
yeah, so I had Lala Bright and uh, George McGuire, and they were both on the show, and we were talking about the UFOs. Also, she's also a psychic medium as well as an experiencer. So it was very interesting to talk to her. We were talking a little bit of all kinds of stuff, got into a few predictions. Hey, Lorraine, good to see you. Hey, Jamie, nice to see you.
Hey, welcome to the show,
And
guys.
same here, Sparky, thank you. So I did a few of the precog dream predictions. So we will talk about that tonight. But after that show, people were really, really messaging me a lot about doing more shows about not only UFOs, but abductee stories,
Stuff like that. Well,
Bigfoot
definitely,
information.
definitely a popular topic right now.
Yes,
Sure.
absolutely. And so, yeah, we're going to try to incorporate a lot of different subjects into the show now. Everybody knows I used to do two shows. I used to do one just solely for the UFOs, only because the paranormal wouldn't really wouldn't really let me talk too much about the UFO stuff. It's the fields are still very
Oh,
separate, although they're very connected.
very much the same. Yeah.
Yes, and it's interesting when I see all of the misunderstandings with it, just like the paranormal. Hey, Gil, so nice to see you, my friend.
Did
So
you
yeah,
did you see that
so
interview with that government
go
guy?
ahead.
There's another dude that they always interview for the UFO information. He used to work for the Pentagon. I forgot his name. He's done a bunch of documentaries, but he was saying that the actual Department of Defense was labeling some of these UFOs as demonic phenomenon. Did you hear about that?
I didn't, but you know what? That's a great thing to talk about tonight for sure. What we're going to do is, so we're going to start. Originally, our guest tonight was traveling and thought there might be a delay. So what we ended up doing was doing a two-part. So we figured, okay, we would cover the UFO hearings for the first hour. We could do our guest the second hour. But thankfully, he was able to get back home, no delays, and everything was good. Hey, Jackie, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. So what we're going to do is the first hour, we are going to talk with our guest about the paranormal and what he's doing out there in the field right now. He's a producer and author of books, clairvoyant. He does it all. And once I tell you a little bit more about him, you're definitely going to recognize him. If you're involved in the paranormal, you will know our guest. And then after that, the second hour, we will be discussing the UFO hearings. And again, we want your guys' opinions. We want your questions, what your thoughts are on all of this going on. We're going to give you ours. And again, if you have any questions for our guests throughout the night, feel free to post them in the comments. All right, so let me get over here real quick. All right, so as I said, we're going to start out with our guest tonight talking about the paranormal. So, our guest tonight is going to be Sam Baltrusis. He is the author of Ghosts of Salem. He's been featured in The Curse of Lizzie Borden Shock Doc. He's penned more than a dozen paranormal themed books, including Related to Evil and Fueled by Fear. He also has been on lots of national TV shows, including the Travel Channel. Um, it goes on and on. Like you guys can check out the full bio on the event page on the link, along with his all of his links to connect with him. But this guy has been everywhere, and he is definitely an interesting guy. I've been trying to get him on the show for a while, but he is so busy that unfortunately I couldn't get him booked. So thankfully I got him here tonight. So again, at this point, let's welcome our guest. Hey Sam, how are you?
Hey, doing well. Just got back from Sleepy Hollow, New York, so I'm glad I made it back.
Yes, and you had quite the little excursion. We were talking about that before the show happened. For anybody who follows your page, and I know a lot of people do, it's always interesting when you're traveling because, like you said, your time is very short that you have to be able to dedicate to travel. And when you do, you try to get in as much as you possibly can. So everybody likes to schedule. But I found out you're a lot like me that, schedules don't always go as how we schedule them.
And I always say, like, I let the ghosts guide me, and especially in Sleepy Hollow, I basically had to just go with the flow because I was like, first I was supposed to be at a certain hotel, but I had people coming in to visit me, and this is actually a research weekend for my upcoming book, Ghost of Sleepy Hollow. So I had a lot to do, and everything kept kind of pushing me away from doing what I had to do. So I kind of just let the ghost guide me. It ended up being an amazing weekend. So yeah, I just kind of went to Plan Z, and Plan Z worked for me.
As long as it worked out, right? That's what's important. Well, since you brought up Sleepy Hollow, let's talk about Sleepy Hollow, because Sleepy Hollow is not something that I knew about until I started following you and started seeing more things about it. So kind of piqued my interest. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Sleepy Hollow, and this is early stages, but so I've written 16 books altogether. The one that I'm known for is Ghost of Salem. So Ghost of Salem is a destination to go to for Halloween, so it's the go-to destination. The other destination in the area is Sleepy Hollow. So because of Washington Irving's classic, The Legends of Sleepy Hollow, or Legend of Sleepy Hollow, he was able to basically create the Headless Horseman mystique,
okay.
and the whole town is just centered around the horsemen. It's like it's basically the whole town. So just like Salem has the whole backstory of the witch trials, and their mascots like the witches. Well, in Sleepy Hollow, it's the horsemen. I went to a haunted restaurant, JP Doyle's, and they had the Horseman Burger, and so everything related to Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman is in Sleepy Hollow.
Well, that's very interesting. Well, of course, I've heard about the Headless Horseman, and I've heard, about Sleepy Hollow. But to be absolutely honest, I just thought it was like an old, folklore tale, nothing to it. But again, I'm on the West Coast where, we have all the ghost towns out here, and, the old Wild Wild West ghost towns out here. So it's a little bit different. And I think that's what draws me to the East Coast is it's like it's a whole different. Yeah. Chad, it's like a whole different arena, huh?
There's a Sleepy Hollow Road in Washington State. Actually, it's kind of interesting that not too far from where I grew up. Not there's any connection to it.
Anything creepy happen there?
It's creepy. It's way up in the middle of nowhere, and it's one of those areas that just looks and creepy. I don't know if there's anything actually there, but I remember growing up as a kid, we used to go hiking up in there all the time.
But yeah, so
and it was
so
always,
Sleepy, yep. But Sleepy Hollow is, is basically, it is a legend, like you said. But it's basically like the whole town is made of legends. So because of that, it's almost like it's ripe for paranormal activity. So the book is going to cover all the activity within the area, and so I'm working on it. It's my first weekend actually researching the area, so I don't really. I mean, I know enough about it, but to the point where I'm just kind of I'm finding out myself. So, like Sleepy Hollow Street where you live, I'm sure there's ghosts are hanging around.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that as well. What is your opinion? You being there, being able to walk around the town. I mean, so I know that you have abilities, but what type of abilities do you have? I mean, can you visually see spirits? Do you just feel their energy? Like everybody's, varies. So that's why I always ask.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of came out of the crystal closet when I did Curse Lizzie Borden. So I'm clairvoyant, so I do see, but pretty much like right now I'm getting ringing in my ear, so I can hardly hear what you're saying. It's like so, it's like so intense. I'm like because you guys have a lot of energy going on over there. But yeah, so clairaudient. I mean, I identify as clairvoyant, so I do see in my mind's eye. Sometimes physically see,
Okay.
but for the most part, I went public with it, and I teach a class called Spirit Squad. So I work with a lot of up and coming mediums to develop their skills and their clairs. So I would say heavily rely on the clairs. I'm a psychometrist, so I can touch something, get the energy off the object that I touch. I can, like this weekend, I let the ghost guide me. So even though I didn't, I had a planned schedule of locations I wanted to see. I let the ghost, and I ended up at this place called Raven Rock, which is outside of Sleepy Hollow. It's in a town. It's like near Hawthorne. And I was really bummed. I was put at this hotel right by Hawthorne. But it turns out there's a whole story of a woman, a lady in white, who she screams to warn people. It's almost like a harbinger spirit. But did I experience her? No. But I did have a few experiences in Sleepy Hollow that I still have to kind of process. A lot of it was more natural stuff, like a bald eagle flying over me while I was walking into Washington Irving's property. A lot of animal magic, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that absolutely does. So do you, so my opinion is I I know that people like in the paranormal field pay all kinds of money to go to all of these quote unquote hot spots. But I'll tell you, I walk to the grocery store, I go into regular stores, I can go into a restaurant and stuff is going on. I can get stuff. Do you feel like there's activity everywhere, or do you think that it is, kind of condensed to only specific locations?
Well, I mean, so as an author, I tend to pinpoint it. So my purpose really is to tell history and to tell it correctly. So yes, I think there's spirits everywhere, but what I really focus on as an author and as a clairvoyant is to focus on historic locations and to give a voice from the spirits that didn't have a voice. So whether it's women, people of color, the spirits that were overlooked by history, like that's what I do as a clairvoyant. But yes, everywhere I go, there's you have spirits kind of coming up to you, and the thing is, really, it's overwhelming sometimes. And
Yeah.
I'm a psychometrist. I also people ask me, do I do readings? I actually don't do readings, and the reason why I don't do readings is because I save it for my purpose, which is to give a voice to these spirits that I feel that I need to tell their story and tell their story correctly.
Well, I feel like everybody has their own purpose in this field. Like when I experienced my near death experience, my whole thing is I had kept my abilities pretty under wraps for a long time because I really didn't even know what they were, and to get in the field and everybody say, "Oh, you're a psychic." That was like back in the days of Miss Cleo and Dionne Warwick, and that was like not a
Exactly.
good tag to have, right? So I
Yeah.
was like,
Right.
absolutely not. That is not what I am. Stop saying that. And that was like the start of really. getting out in the paranormal field in the public. And so everybody still had those concepts from watching TV, and when I had my near death experience, when I came back, the one thing that I was told was that I had to go back and I had to be open about my abilities and I needed to help other people with them. And so I knew that was my purpose. So for a long time, not only was I investigating, but I was mentoring children and teenagers with abilities, as well as their parents, to help them kind of understand how to help their kids. Because it's not like normal raising somebody who doesn't ever talk about ghosts or, things happening around the house. So I definitely think that, now obviously it's a much different time. But I think that each person does have their very specific purpose. And I think sometimes people with abilities, we don't really even understand the abilities completely. And so we don't really know what the purpose is and what we're supposed to use it for. So I always love when I meet, other people that they really know what their purpose is and really do their best to stick to it, because it is draining and people have no idea. I used to give free readings all the time. And I was doing sometimes 30 readings a day. They were short ones, but I'd be exhausted, and people loved me until I either told them something that they didn't want to hear, which actually would always end up happening, but they just didn't want to hear it. Or if I said no and I couldn't give them a reading at the drop of a dime whenever they wanted it, depending. I had people call me at 3 a.m, and so I don't think a lot of people understand like how draining that is. So a lot of people do decide that, maybe the reading part is not for me, but there are other ways that, I can help educate people or however that works.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I do is I teach a class called Spirit Squad. So I actually do mentor as well. I think I'm actually a better teacher than I am actually clairvoyant out in the field, because it's an energy drainer. And I write a lot. So I'm working and writing, and just the idea of giving readings all day long, I can't do it. Have I done readings? Absolutely. I just don't, right. It's not my business, Right. But what I do love is historic properties, and I love going to historic properties, and and communicating with the spirits that may not have talked before, or communicated with before, and that's something that's exciting to me. So I do save it for that. But reading, I will say that being a paranormal investigator who also does readings at historic properties is not only is it draining, but it also is it's very it's rewarding, but it's different than when you're giving readings to people, because people have I would say it's actually harder to read people, and so the fact that you did do that, and I do it as well. So what was happening is, once I kind of went public with it, I would get messages 3 a.m, hey, can you give me a reading? And I'm like, that's not my business, that's not what I do. I'm not right. I'm not a 3 a.m, psychic medium, and I still get that, but my goal really is to educate people on the history and let the ghosts tell their story.
And leads you to where you went. April is in the chat room, and she says, "Sam, I miss you." April Bissett. She is on.
I love April. Yeah, yes.
That's right. April was on the show not too long ago, and again, amazing medium. I have to say, she was spot on a lot of things. So it really, again, it's great to know so many amazing people in the field that are very like-minded. Anybody will tell you we're not like the big Para-Unity cheerleaders, but there are a great group of people out there that we do connect with. I think there's just so much drama out there that it's like people in our field need to focus on their research and not on what everybody else is doing or not doing in this field.
Yeah, April and I are very good friends. She actually was part of it's called Spirit Squad Weekend, where we had a whole weekend of mentoring and classes for other mediums in the field, and she was amazing. And we've done investigations at haunted hotels together, and just we did, and she's the real deal. And I mean, not to. My thoughts are really when it comes to mediums. It's very competitive. You have people that try to out psychic other psychics, and I'm like, I'm not in. I don't want to out psychic other psychics. It's not my.
For what?
Yeah,
Right?
it doesn't. I'm like, we all have our gifts. We're all different. April and I are very compatible with our gifts. She's really good with names, and I'm not good with names. Like, I can have a whole story. I can tell you what they look like, but I can't tell you what their name is. And she's just like, she's right on.
But see, I love that, because like the co-founder of my team, we're both psychic mediums, and she picks up things completely different than I do. And I absolutely love that, because when we both go in, like we'll go to a location, the first thing we do is I'll walk through and I'll just jot down what I'm picking up on. Then when I'm done, she'll walk in, she'll do the same. Then we come back out, we put the notebooks away, and we go in with the team, and then we start, using all the equipment and investigating. And then in the end, we go back and we kind of compare everything to see if we can get any validation, things to validate what we picked up. And it's amazing, because it's like you say with you and April, like I will be able to completely describe what the person looks like, and she'll be able to grab the name. And
Right.
it's like works so great. I mean, it just, the energy is right in sync. So I think that, again, not knocking other psychics, I know thousands of them at this point. I've been in the
Right?
field for so long. So, and I don't lie. Some are better than, others.
Yeah.
Some people have, better, stronger gifts. They've worked on, honing in on their gifts more than other people. I've met plenty of them that are just complete BS. They usually won't come to me because they know that I'm known to call people out. So if I find out, you might be the next topic of my show. So I kind of, the people that I do deal with are great psychics. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, to have a really good psychic or a couple of good psychics on investigations, it can make a big difference.
It really does, and it, like the direction that I'm going is also in the idea of counseling, and I know that sounds weird, but
No,
yeah, so it's basically, and this is something that that Ryan Buell from Paranormal State, he's kind of leading an initiative with PRS where you go into a location, and you have a medium, you have like a communicator that communicates with the medium, and so I can deep trance, so I go into trances, so I can actually. So I try not to do that because it takes me over completely. But so you basically and that's like the Holzer method, where you actually communicate. You're a vessel for the spirit to communicate. So I'm going in that direction where that's a counseling of the spirit. So if there was trauma that they keep reliving in a ghost loop, so that's what we're doing with Spirit Squad, is using it to, like, I guess, counsel the spirits. And then Ryan's group is working on counseling the experiencers. So it's good. So it's and we actually have therapists who are working with us to help us, apply therapeutic principles to the spirit realm.
I love that. I actually, on our team, we actually have a hypnotherapist. And so she's able to help. She deals with a lot of trauma and, all different things. So yeah, we've tried to bring in a lot of support for after we leave, because again, by the time that and see, I deal with a lot of private cases too. By the time, and Chad, you as well, right? I mean, you've dealt with a lot of the private ones. And usually by the time that they find me, or Chad, they've been through multiple teams. And so with sometimes some really negative, backlash, for it. So they've gone through quite a bit. So when they do finally have somebody that, can help, yes, that does ease their minds. But again, I feel like with you, the spirit world, sometimes, they don't know that they've that they've passed away and they haven't crossed over. And I have experienced a lot of spirits that also who've committed suicide, who are very
Oh
religious. And, it is like a whole counseling session you have to have with them, to kind of make them understand that they have passed and that they can cross. And some spirits, when they're here, they think that if they cross over, that they won't be able to come back. So there is a lot of no knowledge. If we think we don't have knowledge about the paranormal, just imagine if you pass away and you don't cross over and you're just kind of in this middle land on a loop, and you'd have to go through your last day, like Groundhog Day, but it ending in your death. Like, how horrific is that? So I so applaud you, for having, a heart and a thought process that really not only cares about like the people who are affected by it, but the spirits themselves. Because I don't think most people understand, but again, most people can't connect and interact with spirits other than with the spirit box or whatever electronics or things that they're using. So I think that when you can connect to the spirit world, it gives you a whole new glimpse of so many different aspects on the other side of what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to me to do that, to like really communicate, tell the story authentically, and also if they are, like you said, there's a lot of spirits don't know that they've passed, or they're afraid to cross over to the light. When it comes to actually crossing spirits over, it's something that I can do that, but the goal really is to for the spirits to kind of have some post-mortem peace, and also there's like you said, they're called left behinds, where they don't realize that they're dead. And Hans Holzer talked a lot about that, where he would encounter spirits that didn't even know that they were dead. And and how do you communicate that to the spirits? It's like,
that's right.
And how do you do it where it is authentic, and it's not it doesn't freak them out. And I know I just approach the spirit realm as people, and I think that a lot of cases in the paranormal field, that's not the case.
Yeah, I have a question for you right after this, but Lori is saying spirits are not like poof, be gone. Some spirits take time to move on. I've encountered many that I've spent a month, even a year dealing with. Has that been your experience, or what's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's a process, and you don't just go like, the council and then they cross over. That's not what we're trying to do. And also with the council, it's the idea is it's an ongoing. So counseling basically implies that it's an ongoing session. So it's a continued, communication. And I'm a big believer too, getting permission from the property owners before even considering crossing spirits over. I've had situations where the spirits were desperate to cross over, which was the case in Curse of Lizzie Borden. Like when we were filming that show specifically, we had I'm related to the Putnam family, and also related to Lizzie Borden. So I had family members that were in the Lizzie Borden house that wanted to cross over, and so but. With that said, it's something that I don't do on a regular basis, and it's not something you can just do. Like she said, it's a long process to do.
Yeah, I've had many discussions or arguments, maybe, of people thinking that, okay, you can just go in and wave around some sage and, say a blessing, and it's going to like suck them into the other side. And I'm like, well, it doesn't, work like that. I mean, my question for you is, so a lot of people ask me, okay, do you know how to cross over spirits? And yes, I do. And many people will say, okay, well, if there are spirits there, how come you're not forcing them to cross over where it'll be a better place for them? My answer has always been, first of all, yes, I could force them to cross over, but why would I, number one? Second of all, if they're happy, or if they're not even happy, if they're okay where they're, who am I to force them, nor do I really even know for 100% positive that if they did cross over, that it would be something great or something that they wanted. And a lot of times, just like Lori was saying, I noticed that family will, the loved one will stick around for a while for their own healing and to kind of watch the family grieve and be there spirit wise until they're ready to kind of get through that grieving process and kind of make more steps forward and then cross on their own easily. What are your thoughts of, crossing spirits over that, say was a human spirit and it was very nasty. It was maybe a woman beater or a rapist or something like that. And now come in contact with them and, people are saying, hey, Sam, you should be crossing this horrible guy over. Then that way he won't, be this way anymore. And they might not have this kind of activity. What's your thoughts on that?
So I find that so when I write my books and I go into these locations, I've actually written a lot of books about crimes. So those people ask me, like, do the victims stick around? In some cases they do, but it's very rare. Usually it's the perpetrators. So the bad guys usually stick around. I like to focus on not the bad guys, but focus on the women or the children or the ones that have been victimized. So like those are the ones I tend to gravitate toward, and I kind of attract that as a medium. But when it comes to the bad guys, I think what happens is they will if they were like that in life, they're like that in death too, and maybe even more so. You'll see the manifestation even as a clairvoyant. They'll present themselves as monsters. I mean, almost like a monstrous form that's how they felt on the inside. So their outsides are revealing that to me as well. So I'm terrified of them, really. I mean, I'm not going to go like, hey, I'm going to cross you over.
I'm going to make you.
When it presents itself as like a monster with red glowing eyes. So yeah, I mean, it's not something that I tend to try to stay away from those entities and focus on the ones that need my help. But yeah, I mean, have I encountered that? Absolutely, I do. What happens is the ones I want to talk to are being guarded or held back by the aggressive energy or the male. Usually it's a male. I hate not to say all guys are bad energies, but usually it's an aggressive male energy that's holding back women usually.
Have you had any problems? So say when you've been to a location and you do find spirits and they are eager or want help to be able to cross over, and I'm like you, I always ask the business owner or the homeowner first. Do you find that because the paranormal is so popular now that a lot of businesses don't want you to stop the activity? They don't want you to cross things over?
Yeah, I mean, let me focus on the positive, because I feel like a lot of the business owners that I know are actually they love their ghosts. They're almost like they have a relationship with their ghosts. So but yeah, I mean, there is the idea like, oh, I don't want you to cross so and so over because they're like, they bring people in. I'm not going to name names or locations, but I will say for the most part, the people, the property owners that I know are very. They love the spirits. They're like family to them. The good ones. Now the bad ones, they would want to get them out, but focus on the ones that they're close to. So I would say in New England, especially the historical ghosts, and like you said, not all spirits want to go. They're sticking around for a reason, whether it's their property or they have loved ones that are still there's reasons why spirits are sticking around. Sometimes it's not because they don't know how to cross over. Sometimes it's like my grandfather, he's still sticking around because we have a farm in our family farm that he's looking out for. So he's going to stick around until he's able to see it staying within the family. So some spirits they're so passionate about. Sometimes it's property. I mean, I would say I do think that spirits cross in love. So a lot of the spirits that were maybe a little cantankerous when they were alive. They cross in love. So when I have
Right.
spirits come
I
back to
lose
me,
that.
it's a different perspective. But
Yes.
there are spirits that have so much guilt that, and usually it's involved like with a murder or or suicide or something like that, where they feel like they're not worthy of crossing over. So you'll get that too.
Right. Yeah, I've encountered that as well. Lori was saying some family members don't want the spirit be crossed over, and I definitely experienced that as well. Chad, when you've done private cases, have you found, like, if you were able to validate maybe that there was a family member in the house that people didn't want you to cross that spirit over?
Well, I don't do a lot of the actual crossing over aspect of it because I'm the only one here that isn't really that has that sensitive aspect. But yeah, there are times we've found things that appear to be family members. Um, but by the time they contact me, usually there's some more evil activity going on. So it's a little bit different deal. But
Gotcha.
yeah, the whole crossing over thing. The only advice I give people is that they have to make the decision uh, to take control of their house or their home or their property and
Absolutely.
that in my case, I believe that somebody else can't do it. It may be different with people that are psychic, but an ordinary person, I don't think can do that for somebody, can they?
What, cross the spirit over?
Right. And
Oh yeah.
and actual people there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know I tell them, it sounds like Sam too, can definitely, we can
Oh no,
help to cross them
oh,
over for sure.
but it's different for somebody that isn't psychic, is what I was asking.
Um, well, you could do some of the similar things, you just wouldn't know if it worked right
Right.
away.
Yeah,
That's the only difference.
yeah.
We could give you like a list of what, or you could record what we do, and then you could try to do it yourself.
Oh,
And
you
although
have
the spirit
to,
may hear you, it's not like you can have a two-way conversation with them. And
right.
again, a lot of times when you're crossing the spirit over, um, there is still a lot of hesitation because it's unknown. Here
Oh
they
yeah,
go from the living, now they go to being somewhere kind of in the middle, just kind of
I
like
can
a
only
holding room.
imagine.
And then, what happens when I so-called cross over? And everybody has a different, idea of what that is. So
Right.
And,
that,
and you were talking about like darker energies. I've encountered that. Unfortunately, that's part of the business. So like, it's like you have the spirits that I tend to gravitate toward, which is a very high vibration activity. But then you have the lower vibration energies, whether or not they're the D word, or
Right.
just a darker. And so I'm dealing with a lot, like especially with like Sleepy Hollow and Salem,
Mhm.
with thought form manifestation. So trying to differentiate between a spirit and something else
Right,
uh,
right,
that's like manifesting, trying to pretend like it's a spirit.
right.
I come across that a lot actually,
Same.
and it'll present itself as like getting people getting scratched and all sorts of things. So how
Absolutely.
do you cross over a thought form? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you would do with a thought form.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know that we could do that, as far as something like that. And again, and then we get, regular spirits that were just really bad when they, before they died, and when they come back. And because a lot of people don't utilize the psychic medium, or the psychic medium may not pick up on that, may not visually be able to see things like that. I think a lot, and Chad and I have talked about this a lot on this
mhm.
show, but we think a lot of the, whole demonic thing, um, is miscategorized.
Yeah, I do too.
And, because again, I visually can see them, and I'm telling you, I just turned 56 years old, and I've been aware of my abilities since 4 years old and seeing things. And although, yes, I have dealt with some very mean, nasty human spirits, I've had a couple of encounters with something dark, but I can't really say, even when I'm seeing it, is that what everybody is considering demonic, because I don't really know what that classification specifically means, because I don't think we have enough, information on it. Now, again, if it's something that's dark, it's not a human spirit, then I definitely revert to reaching out to some, other people in the field that I know that deal with that, because I don't claim to do anything like that or know how to do anything like that. I think it's very dangerous for a
I
lot
do
of
too.
people who are out there right now
I do too.
looking for that and
Yeah.
provoking and,
Market thing right now.
Yeah.
Damien's here and he says, what most call demons are what I categorize as astral parasites.
That's a great definite
Yes.
phrase to call them, because they are parasites.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a great thing. So yeah, you know, so yeah, if I had dark things around, yeah, do I think I've had anything that's been so demonic or so bad that I've had to get somebody else to come in? No, I mean I literally for a long time have been very interested because I really just want to see for myself, an actual case like that. But then on the other hand, Christina's a great teacher. I'm not a very good student. And so I usually do just about everything, the opposite. So it's like I say, don't do this, but Christina's going to not lead by example and probably go check it out. And then I have really bad luck. So it's probably going to end up really bad too. So yeah, I don't need to be looking for.
Well, I will say this. So my first experience I was working with a medium. This was years ago, where she was crossing over a spirit. So it was at a location that I knew very well. So when she crossed over the spirit, it was beautiful. However, there was like a portal that was open that something dark came through, and it went awry. So people ask you, like, why don't you cross spirits over? Well, I've seen the dark side of crossing over. It can turn. So she basically got this thing follow her, like chase her off the property. Well, it was a vessel, so it was the USS Salem, and she was chased off, and she wasn't the same after that. So I do think that there's a danger of crossing over spirits as well. And the darker energies can come through. So I do, I highly recommend, so that people, when if they do cross over, know how to do it, basically, and not attempt to cross over, because you can open up a portal and you can allow the darker energies to come in.
Yeah, I think sometimes though, everybody in this field, like their ego gets blown up and they think, I'm not reaching out to anybody for help because I know what they know and I don't need any help. And unfortunately, I've had tons of people who were paranormal investigators that ended up eventually being a client of mine because they ended up having all kinds of issues. And so, yeah, when I'm speaking at events, I'm always talking about, the importance of paranormal safety and knowing what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, knowing your boundaries of, what you should be interacting with and things like that, because everybody, it's just all out for, hey, just let anything happen. And a lot of people don't realize the repercussions, because you can go and you can have really make something really mad and it follow you home, and it might not even go after you, but it might go after every single one of your family members and traumatize them to the point that you'll want to give up. So I've seen it happen. So people got to really be careful when they're out there doing this stuff.
Yeah, early on. So I was featured on a show called A Haunting, and this is years ago, where I was doing like a performance where I was talking about one of the figures that I've written about, Richard Crowninshield, who murdered Captain Joseph White in 1830. So I did it. It was like a Halloween performance. Well, guess what? I somehow channeled Richard Crowninshield, and he followed me home while I was doing this, doing this performance, basically. And I had an attachment. So like even the best of the best can accidentally provoke evil. And that, I learned a lot from it. But I learned that I have the ability to channel, and I have to be really careful when I channel, especially when I channel.
I have to agree. I had an experience. Again, I've had abilities my whole life, and I had never ever attempted to channel because
Yeah.
I can see them and I can communicate. So you don't need to use me as a vessel for nothing.
Right.
But I
Yep.
literally got jumped by a spirit. And it was one of the scariest, not once, but twice by two different things. One that was, was a human spirit, and it was, my friend's husband who had died in the apartment. The other one was something very dark, which I believe was brought through in a portal as well.
Yep.
But both times, it was such a scary feeling to not have absolutely any control over what I was saying or doing. And so that's the crazy side. So yeah, I know a lot of people who, yeah, they do channel. They can't visually see, so that is their way to be able to put the message through. Um, but I've also encountered some of my friends who do that have had some really bad experiences. So that, for me, I'm just like, yeah, for me, no, I can see you, I can hear you. Like, we got to have boundaries here. You got to stay outside, give me my personal bubble.
I've been hijacked before too. So yeah, and so what I've learned is I actually, so after going into like a deep channels, channeling, I try to do light trance channel where I have the spirit. I'm like you set boundaries with the spirit. So it's like, listen, you can't take me over, but you can sit right next to me and tell me your story.
Yes.
And so if you set that boundary, they will listen. I've had spirits hijack me as well, and it's terrifying. It's because they're so desperate, and I don't like it. And it was happening a lot for a while until I started just I have to use protection all the time. Like I really have to set up. I do a crystal shield of protection. I do all sorts of protection things anywhere I go, and that's the thing. Like when I let my guard down, that's when it happens. So I have to always be on guard everywhere I go.
Yeah. Well, the first time it happened to me, I had a horrible trip up to Nevada, and it was during a snowstorm, and I thought we were going to slide off the side of the hill, and it was all bad. And by the time we got there, I wanted to do was have a few good shots of tequila and relax and realize I made it there okay. And it just happened. We were out drinking, and somebody came up to my friend, which is the owner, and said, "Oh, hey, can we go over to the Union across the street and look around?" And she just happened to say, "Hey, you want to go over and take a look at my apartment?" And, you know, if I was sober, I would say, "Oh, that's probably not a good idea." And then drinking, that's not a good idea
Yeah.
for a psychic to go paranormal investigating and try to connect with things when you're drinking. But drunk Christina thought it was a great idea until I got there. And that will never happen again, ever. And when I went back, again, I personally didn't know what had even happened. I knew that this spirit had jumped me. That was very clear because I could hear what I was saying, but it was not anything I was thinking or saying. And it had total control over my body. And so that was very scary. So when I went back, I was like, I'm not going to let this scare me away. So I still go back there, but it's very, I make it very clear, like, hey, it's me. And yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. So I will give any message you like to anybody, but you can't jump me like that again, or I'm not going to come back. And so now it's much better. But yeah, it's definitely a scary feeling for sure. So I am very big about protection too, and I have all kinds of crystals I walk around with every day, just because it's not just when you're investigating a location. It's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, spirits are everywhere,
Yeah.
and you get sometimes you get bully spirits that they want you to give a message, and if you don't want to cooperate, I've been blackmailed. I've been blackmailed by a child saying that, if I don't give the message to their parent that 100% did not believe in the paranormal or psychics, that they were going to come home with me and they'd stay with me until I gave that message. So, it's interesting, the desperation, what it'll cause spirits to want to do. So yeah, if that means taking you over, it's definitely not out of the question, I'm finding out.
And I just want to point out, like, guys, don't drink and investigate.
Right.
It's not a good idea. And I mean, I've been sober for 14 years, but back in the day when I did drink, I did, and it's not a good idea. It's not
No,
a good idea.
it is not. And I mean, again, we were not supposed, we were when, that first night we were just going to go out and hang out and party together because we were celebrating our birthdays
Yeah,
and St. Patrick's Day. So we
right.
were just going up there. But, it was like out of nowhere, somebody saw her and was like, hey, this would be a great time for an investigation. She didn't know any better. I knew better. But again, in a drunken state, it sounded like a great idea to me. Yeah. But I think all of us as investigators, too, Chad and I have talked about a lot in the past, too. At the beginning, there were really nobody out there teaching anybody or the
Right.
right way to do things. So we really all kind of like grew up in the world of the hard knocks, like on the
Yeah.
job, like learning. So it was like you do something, you do it wrong, you have a bad consequence, and you're like, okay, I won't be repeating that. And then now, being in the field so long, you can take a lot of those experiences and try to share them with the new generation of investigators. Problem is that it's like the new generation of kids. It's like nobody wants to listen. They think like you're the old parent, and what do you know? They know so much more. So, but hey, they keep us in business too. So I guess I gotta be happy for them as well.
Well, I will say, like, there's the whole YouTube crew, like all the crews on YouTube, they're doing these shows,
Yeah.
and they're provoking, and they're doing all the things that we know is not a good idea. And I recently, shot one with Colin from Paranormal Files, and
Okay.
and so it was the thing is, I feel good about my part, which was talking about the history, but after I left, they started like trying to reach out to the Hat Man, which I have a stalker in Salem that wears a hat. So he so I, long story short, the younger generation they're watching the YouTube videos, and they're doing what the younger generation's doing on YouTube, and it's scary. Like, they're doing a lot of really dangerous things that we know is not a good idea to do.
Right. Well, and a lot of those shows too is a whole lot of editing because for most investigators that we know, man, I wish I could have that exciting of investigations every single week.
Yeah,
I've spent more time sitting there waiting for something to happen, and I've had investigations where we went out and got absolutely nothing, and turned around and came back 2 weeks later, and it was like the cornucopia of evidence. So the spirits, they don't. It's not like they're bears in the circus, and they just act on command. So I think that also gives the idea to young investigators that that's where a lot of the provoking comes in. Is like they're not getting any activity, so now they're going to poke and poke and poke, and it's just like with a bear. Eventually you're going to get a reaction, or a dog. If you keep poking, you're going to get the reaction. But is it the reaction that you really want? And again, it can have severe consequences. Like, I think that most people really don't understand. It's one thing when you're helping other clients, or you're just have a passion for the paranormal and you're investigating locations, but when you actually become one of those people that are plagued with paranormal activity and you don't even know how to help yourself, because most of the time you can't. Most of the time you need somebody else. You're too connected. So you
yeah,
need somebody just like any other client.
right.
So yeah, it's definitely interesting. All right, we got about 5 minutes, and I know you've had a long weekend, so I'm not going to hold you much longer. But I just want you to let everybody know you have two books coming out at the same time next month. So I want you
Well,
to
well,
talk about
this one. So Fuel by Fear. So I have a lot of fears, including aliens, by the way, which is your next topic.
that.
But so Fuel by Fear is about me confronting basically going to the locations I swear I would not go to, and kind of how I dealt with fear, and also lessons learned. So it's a book about like the lessons that I've learned as an investigator and as a clairvoyant. And my other book is called Ghost That Conquered Colonial Inn, which is coming out August 22nd. And that is about I worked the overnight shift at hotels. And then we were talking a little bit earlier about that. So after this, I'm heading to work the overnight shift at a non-haunted hotel. But I worked 6 months at Concord's Colonial Inn, which is the site of the battles of Lexington and Concord, and it's said to be one of the most haunted inns in New England. And having worked there, I have to agree. There's definitely a lot of activity, but the book really dives into the myths and misconceptions associated with the hauntings. And there are myths. I mean, there's stuff that I debunk when it comes to the history at the end. So that's coming out August 22nd.
Nice. And what about events that are coming up? I know you stay busy, so I know that there's probably quite a few coming up.
Yeah, so the big one, and this is my first time ever going, is the Michigan Paracon coming up in August, and I am so excited about going to that. And I have the Sleepy Hollow Paracon coming up in September. I produce my own Paracon. It's called Mass Paracon in Massachusetts, and that's coming up in the September 29th through October 1st. And then I'm doing the Warrens Paracon, which is it's a big one on the East Coast. And that's going to be Halloween weekends in Connecticut.
Nice. Lorraine, she's actually one of my longtime followers here and listeners, and she said she's actually an author as well. She does paranormal books, so she said she's got to grab one of your books. So yes, awesome. Absolutely. Make sure for anybody, again, make sure that you're going to go ahead and share this so that everybody gets out there. Go and support Sam, purchase his books, look for the one coming out next month. Again, he's got 12 books. So, there's a long list
16. I have 16 plus. And 16. Yeah, so the Concord's Colonial Inn is 17. So I just say more than a dozen. I should probably say almost 2 dozen.
Absolutely, yes. Take it, yes. Get credit for every single one of those for sure. Yeah. But absolutely. But go out. So obviously there's plenty of options for you, so go check it out. We put his link in the bio on the event page, so you can check it out, contact him, and make sure to order that book and share this podcast. Again, thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate you coming, and especially after a long weekend, you got to work tonight, so I appreciate you squeezing us in.
Thank you so much, guys, and have a lovely discussion about the UFO hearings.
Don't be afraid. You'll be all right.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. Good night. All right, everybody. Hey, Michelle. All right. So now we've got the second half. So now we are going to be talking about the UFO hearings that we had. Again, this has been a big topic all over the place. Actually, Chad and I were talking about this even before we went on the show. We want to hear your thoughts as well on, what you think is going on.
Is this a distraction? Is it legit? What's going on? And if these things are real, like what are they? Are they from outer space? Are they from somewhere else?
Well, they put a lot of interesting information out, this time. I mean, obviously they've been having disclosure hearings and stuff for a while. I know for at least 5 years. I've known people who went and spoken and things like that, but they usually have been private hearings. So, this being a Congress oversight committee, checking all this out and having such high-ranking people, that were actually putting this information out. The fact that it validates so much of what we in ufology have been saying forever was nice. But as always, my personal thing is I feel like, there's always an agenda.
Yeah, always an agenda. It almost feels like we're in a sci-fi movie too, like just crazy.
Hey, Damien. Jennifer says they are real, but think it's a big distraction. Oh, I definitely think so too. Michelle says, I don't trust a damn thing our government says. To check on that one, I'm right there with you because it's.
Well, and that's one of the aspects that makes me think it could be real is how much stonewalling the government's been doing when it comes to this information. So it's like, because they really haven't released a whole lot. There's been quite a bit of quite a bit of a struggle not to let it out there. I mean, they were denied access to all the files and everything. So
Well, they've been leaking videos, forever.
yeah, but those are very small. Like the witnesses were saying, that's such a small piece of the video. There's much more that that they didn't release. And
Yeah, absolutely. My thing is that it just feels like it's a setup. But that's the way I feel because they've been denied, and then all of a sudden we start seeing all these sightings more and more and more, right? Nothing hostile, nothing, just sightings. And all of a sudden they were starting to hit like television and things, and news media platforms were reporting on them. And then when we had all the things that were being shot down around us and everything, and then it seemed like it was slowly planned out. And then, okay, now we're going to have these hearings, and now we're going to say, oh, okay, actually it does exist. I truly don't think that, and this is just my opinion, but a lot of the sightings that we are seeing out there at this point, I do not believe that they are extraterrestrial. I believe that they're 100% ours.
some kind of that we have, which
And yeah, that way they can kind of control the narrative,
there
of,
probably is something out there.
oh, yeah.
But yeah, what it is, who really knows? And they,
Yeah,
they would go with this whole thing too. If they wanted to hide that it was some kind of top secret technology, they would let aliens take the rap. They're more than happy to say that, to keep it kind of disclosed. Because like when that stealth bomber, it crashed down in California somewhere in, I think it was the 70s, but they were blaming it on some kind of alien technology because people were seeing this thing fly around. So yeah, it's not the first time.
well, here in Northern California, in Yuba City, California, there was a crash long time ago. I think it was like in the 40s or 50s. And someone I knew, her mother, like, was there when it happened and all this kind of stuff. And it was completely, put under on, when I first started Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond, and then I changed the name to Top Secret News, I ended up getting on the watch list. Like, I was so shocked because I had somebody who was actually, worked in the military, and they came in and they were under the intelligence, and they're the ones that told me that my show ended up on the watch list because I was getting all kinds of like whistleblowers and military people back then that were putting this information out, but nobody was wanting to listen, so it made it very hard.
I do feel that some of these encounters that they can't really explain. I mean, there's probably a lot of it probably is ours, but there are some that are quite bizarre, and there's also some injuries that have occurred when people encounter these this phenomenon, and some deaths, I guess, according to what they've admitted. But what happened to them are top secret. I guess they can't really release it. But
well, we know with Roswell, it was reported that bodies were removed, not only dead but also alive, which again then kind of spawned the interview with the alien that again was leaked a long time ago and nobody gave it any credit. Now you're seeing it, all these years coming out again, and they're like,
that one
ooh.
fake? Wasn't that one like did they prove that one to be a hoax or not?
There was multiple ones of them out there. So, but no, there was one that was supposedly original. But again, nobody gave it any notice because everybody's like, oh yeah, they don't exist.
Right.
This was something we needed to worry about. Our government would let us know. Well, no, our government won't let us know.
Something though that I find fascinating about these anomalies, whatever they are, like what we discussed earlier before the show, is that some of them are some very odd shapes, like hexagons and triangles and spheres. Nothing aerodynamic at all. And so whatever kind of technology that this is, it doesn't seem to be designed or native to this reality or whatever it is. It doesn't go according to laws of physics. It doesn't have wings. no heat coming off of it, like as a propulsion system. Like, yeah, it's really interesting stuff because it shouldn't fly. Really, I mean, these things
Uh-huh.
and they shouldn't fly as fast as they do, and the type of capabilities. Like the one guy said, the one tic tac shaped thing went from right above the ocean to 80,000 feet, and that's space back down to where they were, and they were tracking at crazy speeds. And it was only when they got their their radar or their instruments on their fighters upgraded that they were they able to see these things and lock onto them. So it's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, if all that's true, it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I feel like, when everybody says that there will be, like a Project Blue Beam, or, that there will be some fake alien invasion, I will tell you that if there is any kind of attack, I would 100% think it's fake. It would be our own
Oh,
stuff
well,
because,
yeah, that's something else that's weird about this whole thing is that which could be not weird, but point towards these things aren't really from outer space; they're from another dimensional platform, perhaps. They they seem to have no answer for weapons that we possess. Like they were able to shoot accordingly some of these objects down pretty fairly easily without anything counterattacking them. And if something was from another dimension, it wouldn't have weaponry like we view weaponry. They wouldn't have a platform like that. So it's that to me is interesting too.
well, and now we've got, supposedly we have aliens that work within our own military. One of
Right.
the witnesses were talking about how they saw this big oblong shape, and it went down and opened up, and there was a bunch of black soldiers that came out, and they actually came out of the UFO, but they did have weapons, and they had black
Hmm.
camo gear on, and they were it was like they were protecting, they were like the security or something from around there. So
Well, and that might be one of something that we have too. And and they did not rule out or not during the hearing, but there was one or two people that claimed that that they do have some of these objects that they've tried to reverse engineer, but they're not nearly as fast and they don't move, they don't have the same capabilities. But you better believe it that if we've had some kind of technology like that for this long, that they've definitely tried to create it.
well, I mean, if you listen to Dr. Greer and people like that, they absolutely, yes, they said that they've had this technology for a long time, and you wouldn't know unless you were in the know. You wouldn't know if it was alien or if it was our own. So,
And there's
um,
another thing that's interesting is this phenomenon has been recorded throughout human history. Also, this isn't a new uh, thing that's popped up, within the last 100 years. There
right,
have been UFOs sighted all the way back to accounts in the Bible of what looked like
absolutely.
machinery. So what these things are, who knows? It's pretty interesting because whatever they are, there's more and more sightings of them. They're becoming more and more common. So be interesting.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm having a lot of the precog dreams right now, and when it comes to weather, I've been saying, I think for the last month or so, about these next 6 months are going to be, we're going to see things like we've never expected to see. We've already seen the big sandstorm that hit. We've seen big uh, earthquakes hitting. We're seeing volcanoes erupt that are huge, or that they didn't even know existed.
then,
Like,
then
a lot of crazy stuff is happening, and I am still getting New York. I am still, I mean, a lot of the East Coast, and I'm still getting Florida.
all this stuff is very apocalyptic type that way. Which I mean, a lot of these very same things are mentioned in the Book of Revelation also. So there's all kinds of interesting similarities too to this stuff. It's it's really, really strange. I think
Yeah.
it's times we live in here. I mean, some people might not think so, but more frightening. But no, it's definitely interesting. It's not really
Well, I've been
boring.
saying for years that, a lot of yes, the weather is normal. We have earthquakes, we have volcanoes, we have hurricanes, we have all of these monsoons, we have all of these things, and we know
But
throughout
they're
history we've had them.
quite often now, though. It seems like that
But
there's
we're seeing them at such a huge level, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's the global warming." No, how about it's called weather modification? How about
yeah,
that?
and then and the government has admitted to doing that. That they've definitely have technology that
The proof is out there.
alter
Yes,
the weather.
it is out there. I mean, again, so many people out there. It's like, just do some research. I mean, there's all kinds of information out there about this stuff. And, now we've got HARP, and, they're messing with all of that. And, that's going to cause, other issues, all kinds of stuff. Jennifer says, what makes you think both sightings are ours? Just curious on both of your opinions.
But on all the sightings of these what do they call them? Uh, non-human intelligence or whatever, these crafts or machinery.
I would say that, so what the machinery that they're talking about in the hearings, I believe, yes, are alien technology. And I think that, yes, there are many reportings of those kinds of things. The things that were shot down, per se, the so-called weather balloon and unidentified stuff they shot down, like over Canada and Alaska and wherever else, Michigan or wherever else the third one was. I 100% believe those are our stuff.
Well, they have they're having these, call them UAPs, right? They're showing up during training exercises and causing our aircraft to nearly collide with them. So there's that's which that could be some other government technology besides ours too. I mean,
Yeah, I would think that too, though, Chad. Because if you look at it, if you look at a lot of the footage or things that people are citing or giving, there's recounts of the sightings about, they never get close enough to be able to do anything. Our military, they can't lock in on. That was the whole thing, like with the TikTok. Like, they were trying to lock in, and as soon as they would lock in, it would disrupt the FLIR or the targeting system. So
where did that? Yeah, he was talking about.
I would think if our jets could get close enough or could shoot something down, I don't think it's alien, because I think their technology is so way above. I would think that the ones that have recovered craft or beings have been based on pilot error.
Oh yeah, like them crashing.
And they've crashed. I don't
know how they word the biologics or whatever that they were saying about non-human biologics, which could be anything,
Right, but there's no proof that they were shot down. Right?
No. There's no proof. Well, there's some claims that they had shot.
Again, yes.
No proof.
But again, if that's the case, how come we haven't been able to shoot down everything that we see up there?
That's a good question. And like it's just interesting from the multidimensional platform. If these things weren't from here, supposedly perhaps they would be vulnerable to some of our technology. But whatever these things are, they're way more advanced than we are. If they can defy all forms of all laws of physics and aerodynamics and all that, it's a technology that we just aren't capable of. Like just some kind of a propulsion system that creates no heat. I mean, there's nothing really. I mean, on Earth or maybe elsewhere, who knows that's possible. That we know of.
But again, we only know about what they share with us.
True.
So if they have all this technology and they never shared it with us, of course we wouldn't think we have anything like that, because we would think, okay, if we have that technology, why do we still have regular airplanes, and why do we have train? Like, we could just Zoom wherever. But again, that it's such a secret thing that, I mean, why would they let anybody know that they have this kind of
It's odd, like
technology?
like let's say this was our technology. We're flying these things around in our own airspace, which makes sense. Um, but but wouldn't they be more secretive about this stuff, and rather than fly it around where people could see it and
Well,
film
that's
it?
what they want, I think. I think they want, people to see it and believe that
The
it
thing about
is
technology.
something, and they're going to spin this narrative of that, they want to attack us. So that's going to bring everybody together and want to
Right,
support the
right,
government and each other, because it's now us against them.
right,
But
right.
even if they wanted to wipe us out, they've had
We've been
tons
doing
of time to be able to do that.
haven't they done this before? I think I remember seeing a movie about this very thing. In Independence Day. Remember that?
You're right.
It seems like it's like this is yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there's a lot
Well,
to come. I would just tell you that again.
there may not
I'm
be a lot to come to. They may beat around the bush and not really. Yeah, I mean it would be. I would be very surprised if they really got down to the actual facts. There where the public could actually get access to that information. It's a big gray area right now, though. It seems like it's these are all secondhand, um, you know, accounts or people that people that talk to the people that saw these things, and no firsthand witnesses or anything yet. So
no, no. There was absolutely firsthand witnesses
well
that.
the pilots, but that other guy, the Grush guy, the guy that was the
Yeah,
top.
no, he got information from other people. Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, I don't know. I will just say that what I'm being shown, like, again, I still keep getting over and over 6 months. So I think, and this is going to be again things that we've never seen. So it's not going to be like a regular hurricane. It's going to be like a super hurricane, or
Mhm.
it's not just going to be regular flooding from whatever. It's going to be really bad. Like the winter is going to be horrific. I see, lots of, blackouts. I think that we're going to,
Yeah,
our
probably.
life is going to be turned upside down within these next six
And
months. And
who
it's
knows?
just going
I
to be a lot
mean,
of change.
we keep creeping closer and closer. Excuse me, to World War III. It seems like with Russia and all that over there. Um,
Yeah, but you know what? Again, if it's true that the aliens, we have precious stuff here that they want, I just couldn't see them allowing two countries to just nuke
well,
the whole world,
yeah,
and take the whole world out.
you think, and it's like and like what are the agenda of these things? Let's say they are an alien race or a race of alien beings or however they may be interdimensional. I don't know. That technically be alien to us, but um, yeah, what do they want? If that's the case, a lot
Right.
of it's kind of pointless. If you look at it from the alien aspect of it all, these things kind of flying around and almost like harassing, you know, uh, fighter jets and flying around above people, and it seems a lot of it seems pointless. And these things seem to be like illuminated, like you're right, they want to be seen. It seems like because of some of the odd like lighting that they have and all that. Just it just don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're just gonna watch and see. But like I said, 6 months, I see, lots of things are changed. One good thing I will still continue to say is that I do not see the end of the world. I do not see us getting blown up in a nuclear attack. I don't see any of
Good.
that. I do see some issues with our grid and,
Oh yeah, no, that
communications. I do
definitely.
see that. But again, a
It,
lot of this is going to be man-made issues. So,
there's a guy that just came forward and warned about our power grid uh, due to what he's witnessed during the hot summer months here in the U.S. that we're going to have a power grid failure. To hear that guy talking today, uh,
yeah,
talking about
it,
there being extensive power outages and stuff like that coming up. Which
well, I think that's just like common sense, to be absolutely honest. I
oh
mean, we are so dependent on technology, and our infrastructure
Failing, yeah. Failing
is
is
so
not.
bad that, I mean, all of this money that they put into all these other things that they really should have been the last 30 years is working on our infrastructure, because again, this was stuff that was going to happen. But they've also said that, they have, with all of this at these hearings, they were talking about how there is technology out there that could fix this whole issue. But then who's going to make all the money from the oil
Yeah,
for gasoline and electricity? And, I mean, again, this is politics plays more into a
oh,
lot of things that people, understand. So,
just this
so
whole
again, the good thing is I don't see us getting, any nuclear bombs thrown at us
or
or
anything.
taking us out. Don't get any of that. Don't get the end of the world. But again, East Coast specifically, I keep getting in and around the New York area, um, Florida, and up along, I would say from Alaska. I would just say all along the West Coast. I
Well,
would
here,
say all the way from
here where we
Mexico
are
all the way up to Alaska.
on the West Coast, we're sitting on top of some of the most seismic active locations on Earth. We're overdue
Well,
for a huge earthquake.
the
Huge,
good thing is I don't see, anything big in California dropping into the ocean. I don't see a big tsunami taking us out over here. Do I see earthquakes and do I see some big ones? Yes. Um, will
Just
they be
not ours.
something that will, wipe a bunch of people out? Not that I'm seeing at this point, but I am seeing that they'll be coming. But I do see a lot of the bigger ones are going to be out towards in the ocean. So that, or
Oh yeah, we've had some big ones, in recent history. We caused
yeah.
that
So
tsunami. But I mean, mankind goes through this every once in a while. A not extinction level event, but one that definitely sets us back a few years.
absolutely, I think it happens all around. I mean, look at when Fukushima, when they had the big earthquake and the tsunami, and it ruined, everything in the nuclear plants, all the different things. But all I can say is, like I've always said, this is it doesn't make any sense to be afraid. Like
No,
being afraid
no,
isn't going to change anything.
it's
Whatever
not.
is planned to be is going to happen, and we just got to be prepared. And don't be stupid. Don't get caught thinking that none of this could happen,
Well, yeah,
and you'll be one
that's
person without anything.
it's yeah. We can spend time. This guy I used to work with used to talk about stuff like what you just mentioned about worrying about stuff. He's like, worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. You can rock all day and not go nowhere. Same,
Yeah.
same principle. And let's face it, none of us are making it out of here alive anyway. So.
Oh, I don't know. I just want to kick the bucket and stick around to haunt some people. But hey, if the aliens would like to come and get me, I am more than happy. They can come and take me. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I am ready to go. You'll be a solo host.
We. Yeah, you'll outlive me.
I don't know about that, but hopefully. All right, guys, we are running out of time, so we are going to stop here. But again, if you guys have questions or comments after this live is over, you can still go ahead and post them. I will see them. I check them every day. Any new comments, you can also email me or private message me. Next week, got a great guest. I'm going to have Nicole Strickland on, and may know her very well, paranormal investigator, and well known for her investigations on the Queen Mary in San Diego. Then
That's
on the
list, Queen Mary.
then on the 13th, we're going to have Gary Hasseltine, and he actually will be coming and talking to us about the Rendlesham Rendlesham Forest UFO incident. So I've had him on my other show. Great interview. And then we have Bill Slevin on the 20th. So we've got a full list going, and hopefully everybody will be able to make it. Oh, Caroline, no worries. You can check out the rerun. We covered the paranormal first and just a little bit of the UFO stuff. But week after next, we will be talking more about it on our UFO broadcast. All right, everybody. With that being said, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure, as always, to share the stream. All right. We talk to you soon. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Good one.